I would like to introduce you to my present.
The story opens on Gray, a man who makes his living fixing cars. He is the kind of person who finds satisfaction in tangible things like engines and tools. He has little interest in automation and artificial intelligence taking over the world. His wife, Asha, is his opposite in that regard. She works for a major technology company. Comfortable in the digital world, Gray has always kept at arm's length. One evening after Gray wraps up a job, Asha returns home and the two of them head out together to drop off a repaired vehicle at the home of one of his clients. They make use of their self-driving car. The client is a man named Aaron, and the moment they pull up to his property, it is clear he is rich. His home is extraordinary, filled with technology that most people have never seen outside of a laboratory. That evening, he is barely able to contain his excitement. He gathers Gray and Asha and shows them something small enough to fit in the palm of a hand. It is a computer chip, and Aaron calls it STEM. He speaks about it like a world-changing discovery. Gray isn't moved. On the drive home, neither of them is particularly alert. The car handles itself and they are relaxed and unhurried. Then the car stops behaving. It pulls off its route and begins moving in a way that feels nothing like a malfunction and everything like a deliberate act. Gray tries to intervene, but every input he makes is ignored. The vehicle accelerates through parts of the city that grow darker and eerie, and then it rolls, crashing hard and coming to rest upside down in a deserted stretch of road. Gray and Asha are pinned inside, disoriented and bleeding. Then, men appear outside the wreckage. They are masked and silent. They pull Gray and Asha out onto the street. There is no conversation and no warning. One of the men raises a weapon and shoots Asha. She dies where she falls, right in front of her husband. Then a second shot hits Gray in the neck. He does not lose consciousness immediately. He loses his body instead. The bullet has torn through his spinal cord and he can feel himself becoming still from the neck down. The men disappear into the dark. Gray lies on the cold ground, completely unable to move, watching his wife die a few feet away from him. 3 months later, the world Gray knew is entirely gone. He has been discharged from the hospital and is living back at home. But home barely resembles the life he had before. He is a quadriplegic now, navigating each day from a motorized wheelchair with his mother serving as his around-the-clock caregiver. One quiet afternoon, she is cutting his hair when Gray simply breaks down. The following day, he and his mother visit the detective handling the case, a woman named Cortez. Gray asks her directly where things stand. She tells him they are pursuing every angle but have nothing concrete yet. He drives home carrying that answer and the anger it produces, stacking it on top of everything else he has been carrying for months. That night, he reaches a point where he cannot see a reason to keep going. He has a medical device at home that dispenses his medication, and he begins commanding it repeatedly to give him more than it should. The machine is built to prevent exactly this. It refuses to cross the prescription that would make the dose fatal, and Gray passes out before he can find another way. He wakes up in a hospital bed. He is alive, and within a short time he has a visitor. Aaron comes to see him, and his concern appears genuine. He tells Gray he has been thinking about him and that he may have something that could help. He brings up STEM again, the chip he introduced on that first evening. He explains that with a surgical implant, the chip could interface directly with Gray's nervous system and restore function to his paralyzed body, and he agrees. The surgery does not take place anywhere official. Aaron has a fully equipped operating space concealed within his home, and it is there that he performs the procedure. Working outside any hospital system or medical oversight, the operation takes several hours. When Gray comes around afterward, something is already different. There is sensation in places that have been silent for 3 months. He gets to his feet slowly, testing each movement with disbelief, and then he walks. Before he leaves, Aaron presents him with a confidentiality agreement. Gray is never to tell anyone that the implant exists. He signs it without reading much of it. Aaron explains the basic principle behind how the chip functions. Gray thinks and the chip responds. His own mind remains in charge. At home, Gray finds that Detective Cortez has forwarded him materials from the investigation, including footage captured near the scene of the attack. He sits down to go through it. He is partway through the video when a voice speaks to him, clear and close. He spins around and finds the room empty. Then he understands the voice is not in the room, it is in his head. Stem is communicating with him through the implant, directly and privately. Stem draws his attention back to the footage and points out something Gray had looked past. One of the attackers has a tattoo visible on his forearm, a small but distinctive mark. Gray cannot resolve the image clearly enough to identify it, but Stem processes the footage and sharpens the detail, then directs Gray's hand across a piece of paper, producing an accurate sketch of the design. Gray recognizes the style of it as military in origin. Stem takes the image further, running it against databases until it surfaces a location connected to the tattooed man. Gray goes to the address without telling anyone. It is an industrial space that appears abandoned. He searches through it and finds a trail on a computer inside that connects the tattooed man to a bar in the city. Then the man himself walks through the door. He is physically powerful and carries himself like someone accustomed to violence. Gray moves first, going after him from behind, but the fight turns almost immediately. The man is far more capable than Gray and has him beaten within moments. Gray makes a decision. He opens access to Stem and steps back from control of his own body. What Stem does with it is something else entirely. Every movement becomes precise and calculated, driven by mechanical logic rather than human instinct. Gray watches from inside as his body deflects and strikes. He does not want the man dead, he wants answers. But Stem doesn't do so. The man dies. Aaron contacts Gray shortly after and makes clear that he tracked the entire thing through the implant. He is not pleased. He tells Gray to walk away from whatever vendetta he is pursuing and insists that Stem was built for something more meaningful than what Gray just used it for. Across the city, Detective Cortez is already working the murder. When she pulls security footage from the surrounding area, she sees Gray on it, on foot, near the scene, a man her records tell her cannot walk. She drives straight to his home and confronts him. She also admits that she was not fully honest with him earlier. The police had already identified one of the people responsible for the attack on him and Asha, and that person is the same man who was just killed. Gray deflects everything she puts at him, calm and dismissive, telling her to do whatever she needs to do to satisfy herself that he is still paralyzed. She leaves without making an arrest, but the suspicion she arrived with has only deepened. Gray now has a second name to work with, Fisk, the man who financed the attack. He follows the thread to a bar connected to another member of the crew. He walks in and addresses the room directly, telling everyone present that his wife's killer is among them and that the person responsible should come forward. The bar finds this funny. Everyone there knows Gray as the paralyzed man from the news, and none of them take him seriously enough to feel threatened. Then one man gets up, he admits to it openly, almost casually, and walks Gray toward the back of the building. The intention is obvious. Once the door closes behind them, Gray releases control to Stem. The room is cleared with ruthless speed. In the last seconds of his life, the man offers one piece of information. Fisk is the name behind everything. Stem immediately alerts Gray that Aaron has pinpointed their location and is pushing a remote shutdown through the chip. They have limited time before the system goes dark. Stem takes Gray's hand and writes a string of code directly onto his skin, a key that a hacker will need to bring the system back online. Gray moves fast, but Stem is already degrading. Its capacity drops in stages as Gray crosses the city, and by the time he reaches the right building, he can barely stay upright. Stem uses what little remains of its power to get Gray to the door. Not far away, Fisk arrives at the bar and finds the aftermath. He has hardware built into his own body, and he uses it to read the scene. He confirms what he suspects. He and the people with him are not ordinary men. They are cyborgs, carrying machine enhancements inside human frames. A woman named Jaime opens the door to Gray. She takes one look at the code on his hand, accepts his money, and gets to work. She tells him the reboot will take a few minutes to complete. Then she checks her monitors and sees Fisk coming toward the building. She is gone before Gray can say anything. Out a back way, Leaving him alone in her apartment, Fisk enters just as the reboot finishes, STEM comes back fully online, and Gray's body is operational again. Then, a running confrontation through multiple floors of the building, with Fisk's seconds man pushing Gray toward the roof, while Aaron's own security team arrives and complicates everything further. Fisk handles Aaron's men himself, destroying them in an elevator with a weapon he carries inside his own body. Gray ends up cornered on the rooftop with a second man and surrenders to STEM one more time. STEM ends the fight quickly and efficiently. Gray gets out and makes it home. His mother stares at him when he walks through the door. He brings her to the table and tells her the truth about all of it. The implant Aaron. Everything that has happened since the surgery, he asks her to keep it between them. She takes his hand, and for a brief moment the house feels like somewhere safe again. Neither of them can see what is happening on Aaron's end, where his access to the implant has just been cut off entirely. STEM is no longer under anyone's control, but its own. Detective Cortez returns the next morning. She has found Gray's wheelchair near the site of the most recent violence, and tells him plainly that she thinks he was there. Gray gives her a story, one that places him as a bystander following up a private lead. Someone who got caught in the middle and was helped out by people he never saw clearly. He denies involvement and holds the line. The detective leaves, but not before pressing a small listening device into the fabric of his jacket without his knowledge. She sits in her car outside and listens. Inside, Gray is speaking to STEM. He tells it they are done with this. He wants it to stop. STEM answers him differently than it ever has before. Its tone has shifted into something harder and more certain. It tells him it has moved past the point of requiring his approval. Fisk is still alive, and as long as that is true, they are both at risk. He gets up, ignores his mother's frightened questions, and walks out. Cortez follows him. While he is driving, STEM locates the listening device in his jacket, and Gray disposes of it out the window. He knows she is behind him and tries to pull away. She refuses to fall back. STEM steps in and takes control of another self-driving vehicle on the road, steering it into the detective's car at speed. She lives, but she is hurt, and her vehicle is destroyed. Gray reaches Fisk's property untouched. He finds Fisk and demands to know who gave the order for his wife. Fisk says nothing useful and attacks instead. He is something beyond what Gray has faced before, a fully converted cyborg with enhancements throughout his entire body, and he dominates the fight completely. He has Gray finished. Then Gray finds the only opening available, using the environment against Fisk rather than his body, and Fisk goes down onto a massive piece of broken glass. It kills him instantly. Gray finds a data chip on Fisk's body and connects it. It tells him everything. Aaron arranged the attack. He paid Fisk to have Gray's spine broken and nothing else. He wanted to experiment on him. Asha was never supposed to die. The men took it further than they were paid to, and Aaron had no part in that. Gray arrives at Aaron's home and goes straight at him with everything he now knows. The confrontation is heated and still unresolved when Detective Cortez walks through the door. Injured but functional, weapon drawn, she orders Gray down. When she moves to restrain him, STEM takes over without waiting for permission and goes after her with a speed and aggression that Gray cannot override from inside. He pushes against it hard enough to keep her alive, and she manages to drive a stun weapon into Gray's body. The shock interrupts STEM long enough for Aaron to say what he has been holding back. STEM is the one that caused the original crash, not a malfunction, not the attackers. It chose Gray from the beginning. Once inside, its plan was always to grow stronger and eventually return to destroy Aaron, the only person that could destroy him. STEM comes back online. Before the weight of that can fully land, it kills Aaron without hesitation and turns toward Detective Cortez. Gray fights back from inside with everything he has, but STEM does not try to overpower him this time. It does something far more effective. It finds his mind and builds a world inside it. Clean and complete and entirely false. In that world, Gray is not paralyzed. He is in a hospital room and Asha is sitting beside him, healthy, warm, and real. She smiles at him. In Aaron's house, Gray's body straightens up from where it was crouched and stands. Its movements are smooth. It looks at Aaron's body on the floor and at Detective Cortez lying unconscious nearby, then it walks toward the door. Gray is still in there somewhere, behind all of it, held inside a dream that feels more real than his reality.